Hello everyone. In this video, I'd like to share some thoughts I have about Brian Fies' A Fire Story and how it relates to our lives under coronavirus. At the beginning of this story, Brian and Karen realize that something has gone very wrong when the electricity goes out, they smell smoke, and the sky is glowing. And I think each of us has had that point where we realized that something was going wrong. The last week we were together at school, I got an email from the college saying, be ready, you're about to go online. And at that point, I knew that the situation was urgent. And I wasn't surprised that on Wednesday afternoon, we got the official email. And so then the next thing that happens in the book is that Brian and Karen pack everything they can in their cars, they grab their pets, and they evacuate. And their neighbors are all wondering what to do. Do we stay? Do we try to water down our houses with our garden hoses? But the answer is no, there's nothing you can do. Evacuate, evacuate. And they drive away, and the roads are filled with cars of people trying to flee. We haven't lost our homes. We still have a place to stay. But we have the same sense of urgency. On Thursday, after we said goodbye and I returned home, I went over to my local store and I was in the supermarket, and one of the employees there was urging everyone to buy, buy, buy. And he was standing there saying, the store is closing, the store is closing, buy, buy, buy. I spoke with the manager, and the manager said, no, we're not closing the store. And I felt a little bit better, but I still felt that sense of urgency that I needed to be prepared. And so, yes, I filled my shopping carts and I came home, and, that's what we had to do. So the next scene that caught my eye was on page 14. Brian returns back to his neighborhood, and he's not sure what's happened yet. But he knows that the streets are deserted. In particular, the 6-lane freeway is empty of cars. He's never seen anything like it before. There's a man passing on his bicycle who says it's horrible, it's awful, but something really radically has changed. And we experience that now. Our freeways are empty. Our downtown is empty. The beaches are empty. The shopping centers are closed. Things that we took for granted, places we used to go to, are no longer available to us. They're empty, they're deserted. Everyone has gone home, and we're trying to ride it out. He calls his wife, Karen, on page 22 when he realizes that his house is burned down, and she says to him, we'll deal with it, be careful coming back, love you. And those are wonderful words, and I think we should take those to heart. We will deal with it, be careful, and let's love each other. On page 26, however, Brian uses the word apocalyptic. Apocalyptic means the end of the world. As Brian and Karen are driving to their daughter's home, and they pass by the burning hillsides, the burning motel, Brian says, the word apocalyptic should be reserved for times like these. I hope our times are not apocalyptic, but I know that we're in a global pandemic, and it is scary. It is frightening. Next, we talked about the immediate aftermath that Brian and Karen enter their new reality. And there's a scene on page 32 where Brian goes shopping, and he passes a woman, and they look at each other, they look into their carts, and they nodded. And there's a realization that they both had experienced the loss of their homes. And I know that when you go shopping and you see your neighbors in the store, it's changed. It's not the same situation. When I went shopping that Thursday night, I ran into some neighbors I hadn't seen for a very long time. But we talked together. We had this shared experience, this shared human experience. Brian now has to deal with getting his life together. And on page 41, he starts making phone calls to the gas company, to the insurance company. And then on page 47, we see the line of people at FEMA. people who need homes, and they're hoping the government can provide for them. And I know that unemployment is such a great concern for all of us. So many people are losing their jobs, losing their careers. And the question is, how are we going to feed our families? I hope that hasn't happened to your family, but I know that many people are suffering. On page 57, Brian notes that the fire destroys every home in its path. It doesn't matter if it's a rich mansion or an upper middle class home, a middle class home, or a trailer for a poor person. The fire will destroy all. But on the next page, he notes that the rich can weather the storm and the poor can't. So there is going to be a period of very deep unrest, deep depression that we have to get through. And on page 58, he talks about the impact of 10,000 people losing their homes and 1,000 more losing their jobs. And I know that we are concerned both with our health and with our economic future. On page 114, he talks about the classic symptoms of trauma: sleeplessness, loss of appetite, mental lapses, mood swings. And remember back on page 101 when he went to the park and he thought he would enjoy lunch in the park, and he watched the people walking past and he became angry. And I got the feeling that Brian was usually a really happy man eating lunch, but this day he was angry because he had lost so much. His life had changed. There is hope, though, at the end of the book. On page 135, he describes the growth on the trees, the flowers, and he says, "It's marvelous to see. Flowers and trees can come back, changed and scarred, but still beautiful. So can we." And I'd like to turn your attention to page 141. And I'll read some of this to you. He said, "Look forward. It seems tough to do when every day seems like a fresh crisis. But now we have no choice." He said, "I've changed, but it's hard to say how. Maybe something like, don't sweat the small stuff." And he talks about that there's never closure, but you just suddenly get used to your new life. Ideas like family, community, tradition, and home mean more to me now than they did before. Home is still the place you live, the stuff inside it, and the people who live there and build memories with you. So take a moment, go back to the fire story. How do you find that it relates to your life now? I hope that, like Brian Fies at the end of the story, we come back to a period of a new life, maybe changed, different certainly, but a life filled with hope, with family, with love. Goodbye.